Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's solve exercise 4.6 of the income statement chapter. The numerical is related to the Weatherspoon Shoe Company, and we are required to prepare the income statement actually for the multi-step and single-step income statement formats. Before I just start the numerical, I just want to tell you that this company have actually classified its operating expenses into two sections actually. Okay, one is related to sales and the second one is related to administrations. Just as an example, if you see here wages and salaries, they're related to sales, and the total amount of the salaries are 1,14,800. So actually it means that these are the salaries of those human resource which are working with the sales department. Likewise, material and supplies are related to sales department. If you see here wages and salaries administrative 1,35,900, it means that these are the salaries paid to the human resources related to the administration side, and other admin expenses is also related to administration side. But if you look into the depreciation on the plant asset, the total amount of depreciation is $65,000, but 70% of that is related to selling and 30% is related to administration. So while we solve the numerical, please keep this fact in the mind. Okay, now every income statement is started. That's the format of that, you know it, so I already drew it to save some time. Now every income statement is actually started with the net sales figure, which is $9,80,000. So let's write net sales, and as we are preparing a multi-step income statement, so we're going to use the same technique which you have learned in your basic accounting actually. So from the sales, the very next word that we subtract is called cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold figure that we have is $5,16,000. So let's minus that, $5,16,000. When you minus this figure, the remainder is actually called as gross profit. Okay, and the gross profit amount that we have is $4,64,000. It's after the subtraction. Once you are done with subtraction, then you give the heading of operating expenses. So whatever expenses that are related to the operations of the company, we're going to jot down here. Now if you remember our discussion on the question, the company has divided its operating expenses into two sections. The first section is the selling expense, and the next section that we have is the admin or administration related expenses actually. So these two zigzag headings are the subheadings of this one actually. Now let's go to the sales related expenses. Rental revenue, that's a non-operating revenue, we're going to use that after this. Interest expense, non-operating expense. Material and market appreciation on the land above cost, it's not used for income statement. Wages and salaries related to sales, $1,14,800. Yes, we're going to write it here. Wages and salaries, $1,14,800. Okay, then after the wages and salaries, we have material and supplies related to sales, $17,600. So material and supplies related to the sales department worth $17,600. Then after this we have income tax, which will be used later in the numerical. After this we have wages and salaries administrative department, 1,35,900. So I will write it here, wages and salaries of administration, this is $1,35,900. Then after wages and salaries administration, we have other administrative expenses, 51,700. So other admin expenses are 51,700. Okay, so let's proceed. After this we have cost of goods sold, it is already recorded, and then we have net sales already recorded. We have depreciation on plant assets, $65,000, but 70% of that is related to sales, 30 is admin. So let me write it here. Depreciation expense, as I'm writing in the selling section, so I'll write here like 70% of the total, and the total is $65,000 actually. Whereas 30% of this depreciation expense is related to admin, so I will write 30% of the total, which is $65,000. So here the figure would be $45,500, and here if you multiply it, the figure is $19,500. dollars actually. Now once we have it, after this, if I proceed, so it's cash dividend declared 16,000. So we don't need cash dividend for this numerical, and we don't need this market appreciation. Remaining things will be accounted actually in the numerical. So let's find the total of this, the total of selling and the total of admin. So the total of selling is actually $1,77,900. Okay, and the total of admin is $2,07,100. So what we're going to do is that we're going to subtract both of these expenses from the total of the gross profit figure. So our EBIT would come as around $79,000 EBIT. Now that's the operating section actually. After this operating section, we will go for non-operating transactions like non-operating revenues and non-operating expenses actually. So if you remember earlier in the numerical, we identified rental revenue as non-operating revenue, interest expense as non-operating expense. Okay, so I will write here plus rental revenue $29,000, that will be added, and then I'm gonna subtract interest expense worth $18,000 from it. If I do this accounting, so I will get a remainder value of $90,000, and this could be called as our earning before tax. So EBIT is earning before interest and tax, and this one is earning before tax. From this we subtract our tax expenses, or whatever the income tax amount is actually. So if we see in this numerical, our income tax amount is $30,600. So I'm gonna subtract $30,600 from it, and the remainder would be actually called as $59,400. This is actually our net income. So if you see here, we have actually prepared an income statement, but with the help of a multi-step. A multi-step it's because it classifies the activities of the company into operations and non-operations. This is the operating section, and the lower part is the non-operating section. And then like there are steps, multi-steps, like first we calculate gross profit, then we calculate operating income, and likewise we calculate income actually. So this is the understanding of the multi-step income statement. Okay, so let's go to the second part. And in the second part of the question, if you can see, we are supposed to prepare the single step income statement. Now in a single step income statement actually, we don't do operations and non-operations classification. We do revenue and the total of the revenue and the total of expense classification actually. So we are supposed to first write down all the total of the revenues and then the total of the expenses actually. Okay, so I'm going to use the same data actually, so I will be a little bit fast here. Okay, and so the in the revenues actually, if you remember, the first figure we got was actually net sales, and the amount of the net sales that we had was actually $9,80,000, if you remember. So I will write it here, $9,80,000. Then there was another revenue in our numerical, which was rental revenue. So the rental revenue figure was $29,000. These were the only two revenues that we had, so we will total it. The total of this is $1,009,000. So we can call that as the total revenue of the company. Now after this we are supposed to list down all the expenses together actually. So if we look into our question here, starting from here, so the very first expense we have is cost of goods sold, then selling related expenses, then admin related expenses, then interest expense, and then tax expense. So I'm going to write them here. Okay, so let me just quickly write the values here. My cost of goods sold figure is actually $5,16,000. Then after that, if you remember, it was selling expenses. So inside selling expenses we had wages and salaries. So wages and salaries amount was around $1,14,800. Then we got material and supplies, which was $17,600. Then we got depreciation expense. So I will just write the value of that, which is $45,500. When we totaled it, we got a value of $1,77,900 actually. After the selling expenses, we got administration related expenses. So we can make a subheading, And then we got wages and salaries related to administration department, which was 1,35,900. Then we got some other admin expenses actually, so I will write in short 51,700. And we got some depreciation related to administration also, which was 19,500. If we total this, it becomes $2,07,100. Then after that we got interest expense, okay, as our expense. So interest expense amount was $18,000. And we got income tax or tax expense also, which was 30,600. So all these figures are actually, I'm using it from the previous part, okay. And then we can find the total of this, means like 5,16,000 plus 177,900 plus 207,100 plus 18 plus 36. So the total of this is actually the total of expense, which will come as $9,49,600. Okay, so the total of expenses, that's the total value, or even I can write it here, total of the expenses 9,49,600, whichever you like. If you write this one, then you're going to cut this one, so it's up to you. And then we subtract like total of the expenses from the total of the revenue. So once we do subtract, we will get our net income, which is $59,400. So if you see here in the previous numerical, in the multi-step, we got operating and non-operating, and here we have revenues and expenses classification actually. Thank you very much.